All right, welcome back to Scouching's video room. If you're not familiar, what we do is we take a look at a single game of a top NHL prospect and take a look at what they bring to the game and maybe some potential areas of improvement and just take a cross-sectional look at what's going on with a player. We are having a really good one on the show today in Philadelphia Flyers first-round pick from this past year's draft in Jett Luchanko of the Guelph Storm. He is this guy here, number 7 at center, and he is quite a hockey player, so I'm excited to watch this one. Let's get into the video and see what we can find. Literally the first rush of the game, this is something I love out of Jett Luchanko. I've seen Luchanko forever, and last year he just grew and grew and grew on me. So here he is here. The puck's been dumped into the offensive zone. It's heading this direction. He's not going to go full tilt into the corners, but he is in a really good supportive position here, right? So he's in wide open space, not really much of a challenge. So he's covering this, right? So limiting the options of Oshawa for what they would have as a safe option. He stays in good position. He gets to the puck here first and does a good job establishing body positioning on the forechecker here and just spins through him. It's a bit soft in terms of coverage, but just gets through him. Really nice board work and no hesitation. A quick thinking, pace of play style things. Doesn't necessarily mean you're fast, but he makes that decision real quick, gets the puck out to the middle of the ice, and first shift of the game, he generates a pretty decent scoring chance there just from intelligence, making a good read, and confidence along the boards to make a little bit of room for himself to make a dangerous play. This is some smart positioning here from Luchanko. Again, he's a center normally, and generally you like centers to be a little bit deeper in the defensive zone, but I think he does a really good job here. You know, he's not cutting too deep back. He's got 3 teammates here down low along the net. He is more thinking that I think that the bigger risk here is the puck coming this way. So if this guy comes here and is set up there for a shot, this cross-ice pass here is pretty dangerous. So if he can sort of get in the way here and make an attempt to block this pass, which he does. So even something as simple as this, right? Just get your stick on the puck and maybe you deflect it out of play or something. But he's also in a good position for what happens next, which is this shot from the defenseman goes off the boards. And he has a much easier time getting possession of the puck here in a one-on-one battle rather than if he were, say, stuck in front of the net and this guy had a lot more empty space by himself. So a little bit more passive than you might expect typically from a center, but I think he's making a good read on the situation on the ice. And then right there, right? So that ice gets abandoned by the Oshawa player. And Luchanko's alone here, right? So here, my thinking always goes, okay, how does this player generate a breakout from this, right? Is he going to go off the glass here and just pop it out into the neutral zone and make a dump and chase here? Or is he going to, for me, what I like to see is he going to sort of take a look and see what's possible and try to maintain possession and move the puck up the ice with control? And that's what he does. So he takes an extra couple of seconds, gets a different angle. So he just turns his body, gets a different look on the ice, excuse my drawing there, and just gets a pass really clean to this guy here. Catches that Oshawa forechecker a little bit of step behind where he could be, and that's a clean breakout. So obviously they dump it and go for a change, but a really smart positional little play there from Luchanko, and then again taking that extra half a second to get a different look of the ice and try to find a more controlled exit option. I think these are things I've seen from his game in the years I've been watching him. One of the things I talk about is the ability of a center for me that I think is super valuable is I use the word stitching together a line, or the phrase stitching together a line, and I think Luchanko is an excellent example of that, and it's why I might have guys like Luchanko really high on my list. Berkeley Catton is another one. And this is a really good example of what I'm talking about. So the NHL is fast, right? Everything happens quickly. If you're not one of the fastest guys in the league, it is really hard just to be a primary puck carrier and be that Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon style guy. It's good to have those abilities, at least to like a level rather than that sort of S tier speed. But to compensate for that at the NHL when a lot of other players are also really quick and really physical, it also helps to be able to be a guy who makes a quick read and makes a pass really quickly and stitches a pass from your defenseman to your center and center to winger. Those are the key areas, I think, where you really gain advantages in hockey, and I think Luchanko does a really good job on this play. Again, it's nothing fancy. I'm not trying to say like he's incredible because of this. I think it's just such a high-end trait, so You'll see him receive the pass here. And yeah, you might make the argument that Luchanko is here and he has a lane, right? So he can just rush it himself. If he's the fastest guy on earth, he can just get away from number 14 there and go. But what he also has is 96 in motion here, right? So this is a winger, number 96, and he's just going to cut across, and Luchanko wastes no time. He just sends this pass directly out, because generating speed from a slow speed like this at the NHL level is going to be really, really tough to evade this forechecker here. So to be able to just make this quick read and hit the winger, and then the winger hits the other winger, and then there goes Luchanko. This is what I love. It's not that Luchanko is slow, but it's about how he uses his speed and smarts and puck movement to really do damage. And so this is a really, really good summary of what I'm kind of talking about. Receives a pass from the defenseman, chips it up to 96. 96 puts it to the other winger. And then this is Simon Wang, 6'6" defender that everybody's talking about as a potential first-round pick, just not paying attention to really what's going on here with Luchanko. He's the left-hand defenseman. He's on the left side of the ice. This is bad. Luchanko is a dangerous player to allow get behind you like that. Simon Wang is in position here. The puck is over here, right? So you've got a one-on-one here. You've got this coverage here. You have essentially at least an equal matchup here, right? If not a man advantage. So I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, leaving his lane, and now the midline of the ice is completely abandoned, and you've got Luchanko in empty space by himself. This is not the subject of the video, but definitely something I've noticed with a guy like Wang at high levels of hockey like the OHL. But great rush there from Luchanko, and then again, throws it out in front. Really good supportive positioning here. He has a little bit of a gap to the nearest defenseman here. He gets possession of the puck, and you don't have much time in this situation, right? Like with all this going on, you do have empty space here, but all these guys can quickly turn and basically block this passing lane. So you better make a decision quick, right? You have a line mate cutting this way, so going back around the boards probably is just going to lead to a turnover. Like Oshawa's in a really good position to defend this if there's any level of hesitation from Luchanko. Just a quick bang pass, perfect tape to tape right into the slot area-ish, medium danger, and he generates something out of it, right? So we're seeing so many different traits with Luchanko that I love to see out of especially the centers in the game. And here he goes again. A really, really nice sequence here from Luchanko. So again, hard on the forecheck. I love to see this. If you've got the speed, use it. Pressure guys. Apologies for the drawing again. Jeez, had too much coffee. He's skating hard, causing a forechecking situation here. The support he gets from his line mates here to sort of keep the puck pinned in the offensive zone. They do a really good job. That's a great play from 96 here, just to pass it right to Luchanko. And Luchanko, they talk about seeing secondary options and analyzing the ice a little bit better and deceiving opponents. I think this is a bit of that discipline as well, right? So you could be absolutely forgiven for thinking that this is a great opportunity for Luchanko to just shoot it on net from here, right? He's moving the goalie laterally. He's come off the boards. He's heading this direction. This is also a great option too. Wide open. Luchanko could maybe drag the puck a little bit further towards the net, keep the goalie guessing a little more, but he just quickly dishes it off. That's like the third slot pass that's been clean in the first half of the first period where it's generated something for Luchanko. So he's just been methodical and just really smart and really just gets it, which I love. I love to see players like Luchanko who can play like this. And he's just been doing so much so well in this game already. This is a delayed penalty. That is just a wild hit from behind. So here's Luchanko again. So Luchanko is here. He's a prime target for receiving this pass off the boards, and he's got space to play with, right? Oshawa's defensemen, both of them are on the right side of the ice, so you're hoping that maybe number 4 can pivot around and sort of circle back and cover this lane. But Luchanko's fast, and he can really sort of motor in there. So what happens? He gets the puck. It's a bit of a sloppy pass, but he receives it well. Still not challenged much from number 4 here on the entry, and he just finds a way to navigate through all of this. Gets around 61, and again, body positioning. Body positioning. You don't have to always be super skilled to protect the puck. I mean, this is a good demonstration of good skill, but using it with your body to evade pressure really well. I wish we could see what happens from here. On those entries and such, he maintains possession really well, protects the puck really well. And it's not always just like, I'm more skilled than you, I'm faster than you, I'm this and this and this. It's how you use all those things in conjunction that is really impressive to me about a guy like Luchanko. So this doesn't go Luchanko's way, but again, it's a demonstration of the same sort of thing that we were just talking about. So he's the center, he's just taking the face off. It's a little bit chaotic, but he comes out with possession of the puck here, right? So he has the puck now. He's in space, right? He is obviously a pretty big target here. He's got 2 defensemen here. The front of the net's covered pretty well. He's in a lot of trouble, so to speak, here, but he sort of takes a second, uses good skill to shake off this guy and get himself into this area of the ice. So little tiny little pockets of space on how you use it. It's a huge way to generate offense, but then he turns his back to the guy who's sticking with him and keeps the puck away from him. Like, this is really good stuff you see in drills all the time because it's super important. He protects the puck. He tries to thread the puck in here to this guy, and it doesn't quite work out. Maybe a little bit of a riskier play, you know, maybe you could try throwing it up in the air a little bit and getting it into really open space, but it's an inside driven play. I mean, I can't complain too much. And then Luchanko's right back on the back check, and really, again, really good positioning here. Just watching the play, I'll be curious to see what happens with this guy going to the net. Good positional defending there for a guy who's covering for a defenseman, and they're back the other way. So Luchanko's, I think, in the right spot here, considering what's going on the ice. So there's an interaction here. You need this coverage here. You've got two guys in front of the net. So he's kind of doing the right thing by sort of covering potential options in this area of the ice. He bites a little bit and cuts a little bit too close, for me at least, to this side of the ice, but he is trying to cover off this guy. So I can't really complain, but what that does is open a big lane here, especially because Luchanko's stick is on this side of his body. And you see this stick here, it's going to go to this guy here, and they're going to get a pretty good chance on net out of it. But again, Luchanko is not slow. He reads that real quick. He's now in the shooting lane, ready to block the shot. And again, for a center, this is what you want. Make that extra effort, get into shooting lanes, try to prevent things in your own end from happening that are not good. And he's doing that even if it's not always perfect. Don't think you can really critique him too much for what he does. This is a nice pass reception here from Luchanko. It's not the best pass. It's going to go way too far in the offensive zone for him to carry it with a lot of momentum and get down low. But he gets the puck really well here just by quickly turning to create momentum to get away from Ben Danford here on defense. Again, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but you can tell that he feels like he's in control of this play. He's just protecting the puck, makes a quick cut, simple pass, gets it to a defenseman, and they get an attempt on net. You know, there's no panic on this play here. He just makes a good read, a good idea to get away from a defenseman. He's got a couple of guys in his realm of causing issues for him, and he just manages to get something away, and they manage to get a shot towards the net. So just good stuff from Luchanko over and over and over again. We're seeing a lot of just really good hockey. So this isn't really that ideal immediately after I just say there's a lot of good here. So Luchanko, again, not the fastest guy in the world, but this is kind of where you would like him to be a little bit quicker. So especially on his crossovers, he should be guiding this guy towards the boards as hard as he possibly can. But the entry, he stops moving his feet, and then the entry just gets to be too easy there for 14 on Oshawa here. So I'm not sure why he sort of stopped on that play. I mean, I guess it's been a bit of a longer shift, but those types of things, I want to see some more crossovers, some more energy there, and maybe block that opportunity. But so far in this game, I can't complain too much. I'm not going to complain too much about this, but if you're Jett Luchanko here, you're facing pressure, you got to make a decision quickly. I get that he's maybe trying to think a little bit outside the box here and just keep the puck out of his own end. You know, you have a pretty clear option here. You're on your strong side. The puck's right there for you. Just get it to your defenseman who has a much better look at what he's going to do here, throwing the puck back into the neutral zone. Immediately turns it over. Now, granted, Oshawa is offside, so they can't just go right into the zone, but now they have possession of the puck off of could have been a pretty safe opportunity there for him. But in the volume of things that have been going well for him this game, I'm not going to be too critical. This is when you see players who do actually have quite a bit of speed in their game and seeing a guy who really knows how to use it effectively. Luchanko is here. The puck's coming around this way if you don't see it. So it's coming around this way. And he's just going to take off and get right behind Andrew Gibson here and just completely leave him in the dust and take a great route, right? Like when people talk about running routes and everything, him not just going straight up the ice, it not only is easier to hit him with a breakout pass, but you're forcing the defenseman down the ice to move laterally, right? If they have to move this way, it's a little bit more difficult on your feet than it is just to move straight backwards. So Luchanko cuts right across through both defensemen. Now see where he is? So he's come all the way this way here, right? So now he has a guy here who can then motor this way, and this defenseman is now in a much more difficult situation, right? Whereas if Luchanko had just skated straight this way, this pass would have to be pretty pinpoint to really hit him accurately. Just a really, really good thought on the rush here, and off he goes. Oh, and that's a great idea. He just loses the handle at the last minute, right? So this defenseman is covering the passing lane, as you should on a situation like this. You don't want that one-timer opportunity, but Luchanko just waits him out for a split second, and if he gets his stick back on this puck and sends it back cross crease, there's nothing number 4 can do, and this guy just needs to maintain this gap, fill that space, and score a goal. Barely doesn't work out for him, but my whole thing always is about the process behind these things, and I think this was a really smart rush, just a really smart little play here, and if he just holds onto the puck there, that could have been a goal and put his team up by 1. Here he goes again on the rush. I mean, you know where Luchanko is. He gains a step on 96 there, goes right to the net and gets a scoring chance. One thing I like to do is time guys that go from blue line to blue line, and I really like to just see in a game scenario when they're skating full tilt and have some time to spool up, how quickly are they going from one blue line to the other? It's not the most important thing in the world to me, but generally I like to do it because it does cut through a little bit of bias from what you may get on video. You know, blue line to blue line is generally the same in many places. So you get a decent gauge of, well, this player is this size or has this skating stride, and this player is this size and has this skating stride. But at the end of the day, if it all comes out in the wash in terms of timing, then it's not so bad. And I'm curious about what this blue line to blue line time is for Luchanko, because he was one of the faster ones last year in the track data that I have. So 1.8 seconds or so. And that's about above average, I would say. So not amazing, but for me, you know, usually if you're below 1.8 seconds, you're definitely among the faster players in the database. But on the rush like that, to get a chance like that, really good stuff. So the Guelph Storm get a pretty good break here. They've got good numbers in front here. They've got good coverage out here. Everything seems to be under control. This Oshawa defenseman will just fire it into the shin pads of this Guelph player and then fall down on the offensive entry. He loses a stick and then falls down. And now you have a problem, right? This very quickly has turned into a 3-on-1, essentially. You know, maybe this player can get back and do some coverage, but you at least have a man advantage here. What's really interesting is what Luchanko does here. Again, this sort of analysis of the game on the fly. So he gains body positioning right away on Callum Ritchie here. He just cuts right in front of him and sort of runs a little bit of a pick on him and slows him down ever so slightly. Also, he kind of lets him keep going. So Ritchie just keeps going and tries to cut off this option here with 96, and Luchanko just goes, okay, well, I'm just going to stand here. I'm not going to just run to the net with everybody else. I'm just going to slow up, and look at him now, right? Like this is obviously doesn't come his way, but this is a grade A chance here, especially if 96 were like a step quicker and a screen in front of the net opportunity. They get a chance on net, but just to watch the whole thing again, I mean, the speed he gets up the ice and the body positioning and then the slowing it up and creating room for himself and the potential for the scoring chance he could have had. I'm loving this. This guy, I loved him going into the draft last year. I was not surprised to see him drafted as high as he went. That's another really smart pass. He manages to turn this into a medium danger scoring chance, right? He closes this gap real quick, challenges Ben Danford along the boards, causes a turnover. It's chaos now. This is when I think the best players really show themselves, is when the game gets crazy and chaotic and who can come away with possession of the puck and how. And he gets a pass from his line mate there. Now he's in some open space, and it does not take him very long to go, yep, this is my guy, right? Bang. And they get a chance. Just to watch it again, he gets involved in some way, causes the turnover or helps cause the turnover, quick thinking, and then he just goes right to the net again, right? Like there's a mini 2-on-1 there. Oshawa all bites. They all bite on this shot attempt, and there's Luchanko, right? He's a tipping threat. If this shot goes off the boards, he's a rebound threat. He's a rebound threat if it hits the goalie. Like he's in great position to do something here. You can't see him, but Luchanko's coming off the bench here, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. He's a good forechecker. He uses his speed really well, closes gaps effectively, and he causes a turnover, or what leads to a turnover for Oshawa here. Just challenges that offensive exit, causes a little bit of chaos, doesn't give 11 a whole lot of time to think, and now Guelph has possession. It's like little things like this over and over, and here he goes. Look out, here he comes, and that's a clean entry again, right? They establish possession in the offensive zone. Guelph draws a penalty on this, and I think Luchanko makes a great read here, going, I'm going to go this way, around the back of this guy, because what's he going to do? Turn around and challenge me, and, I'm Jett Luchanko. I have speed here. Again, he gains some pretty good body positioning on this guy, but he is under threat, so just get the puck to this dude if you can. But he goes, you know what? I'm going to do this myself. Stops up at the blue line to avoid this defenseman here, or this defending player. Chips it across the blue line. He gets tripped. He just kept his feet moving, draws a penalty, and then that's a really nice cross ice play, and they still have possession, right? So little thing there with Luchanko, but just feeds into the narrative that he's been very, very good in this game, and I don't really have a whole lot to complain about. Not the most amazing play here from Luchanko. Again, the right idea, covering for his defenseman who steps up on this offensive exit and generates a loose puck here. And Luchanko gets to it. But again, I think he's trying to be a little bit too fancy here. You have the puck on your strong side of your body. It's on your forehand. Just ship it. No nonsense. But he just doesn't have the strength behind this play to get the puck through, and he causes a defensive entry. They get the puck back, but those little things, like I think that the pattern that we're sort of seeing here is these sort of quicker plays that are directly in front of him. I think he's trying to make things a little bit complicated in a little bit spooky areas of the ice at the defensive blue line and everything like that. Just a thing to think about. He's been great, but that's happened a couple of times in this game where you're kind of going, all right, there's a high level mind here. There's a really smart player, but sometimes you just got to do what's in front of you. And this immediately afterwards is just really, really smart. So Luchanko gets the puck here. You have a 4-on-1 basically, right? This is not a situation where you have the numbers, 23 is going this way. I mean, this is a situation where I go, dump and chase is fine. This is a situation where coaches will go, if this is what you're facing, just get rid of it. Fire it in the offensive zone. Trust this guy to forecheck and pick it up. But what I love to see is dudes who can do something like this. He draws in all the pressure. He waits, right? Now he's got all of these guys committed to him. This defenseman is not even really looking anywhere but at Luchanko and only sees it when the pass gets to 23. And now they have possession in the offensive zone. Like, you don't have to dump and chase it. And Luchanko has the confidence to try this kind of thing and see, okay, yeah, these guys might all challenge me. They're all closing in on me, right? That web closes in on him really consistently there. And now he's turned what was a lot of space to play with and maybe a dump and chase situation into, okay, they're going to give me a little bit of a lane here. I'm going to time things perfectly until these guys are all so focused on me that this guy now has an opportunity to be on his own. Again, selfless, drawing pressure, diffusing pressure. Draw pressure, diffuse pressure. He's really good at it. And right after that, Luchanko is this guy here. He is nowhere near his defenseman, but watch what happens. Just keep your eye on him. Back check, 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 bam. And he's there defending his goaltender. I don't really know what you can complain about here. I think he has been great, just super, super dependable in this game. A guy I would want to play with. So Luchanko causes a stick check that leads to Guelph getting possession of the puck here in this interaction. And then he jumps into the rush. And again, you see these little things that can make a huge difference at key areas of the game. Like, he just gallops through the neutral zone. Part of you might think, just go to the net, crash the net. Right? But what is more modern, I would say, and more creative and everything is see what this guy is doing. If he doesn't keep his eyes on you, if he's not watching you, just stop up slightly. Let him create a little bit of a gap here, right? So Luchanko now has a pocket of space to play with where if Katzen can shovel this puck through here, there's potential for a scoring chance. It's super subtle. The way that he's able to just, again, that quick little cut, you might even have missed it, right? Just watch his feet. Slows down ever so slightly. And it just creates enough of a gap there where it makes him a scoring opportunity. These are the things, right? Like, you may not be the biggest, fastest, most skilled, most blah, 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 blah guy, but if you just have an awareness of maybe watching your opponents or this ability to create a little bit of pocket of room for yourself in some way, and you've got line mates who know to look for you or know sort of get the puck to the middle of the ice kind of thing, blah, 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 or they're scanning themselves, you can benefit from that as well. And at the end of the day, a scoring chance is a scoring chance, and that could have been a good one. As soon as I say that, on number 14 here, he does lose track of him on the back check. I don't think this is too deep into a shift either. He just kind of loses the gap here quite a lot and completely falls back on play. I mean, there is coverage here, but this man is also kind of not in a good situation. So, this leads to a really good scoring chance from Oshawa. Actually, it leads to a goal. That was a nice goal. But Luchanko has the guy covered and then slows down, loses him, and you get scored on. So not incredible from Luchanko. Generally in this game, he's been pretty good, but that's the second time against that specific player where Luchanko's been kind of left behind a little bit. So this is a situation where I think I would have liked a little bit more preparation and scanning from Luchanko here in the corner here. He's got some good space to play with. The puck kind of comes to him. Obviously, this is a bit of a chaotic situation. You're down 1, 3 minutes left in the game. Like, the energy is pretty high. This is just after a goal that Guelph scored. You may not be the calmest minded person at the moment. Totally understandable. But he doesn't even really look look to see what other options there are here. Like, he's got an open man here who has quite a lane here. Like, he's kind of not been using his defensemen as much as I think I would like to see him utilize them. I don't know if that's a structural thing or what, but he tries to send a pass off the board. Like, this is just a much more difficult play to make, and this is into pressure, right? Like, this is not likely to work. Even if he wanted to be fancy, like, he doesn't even shoulder check on this play at all and doesn't even see this man. In a game that you're losing by one, I mean, ideally, I would like to see you keep possession as much as you possibly can, but Lev Katzen, I think, makes a good play. I mean, that's a great forecheck there from Lev Katzen, and they get possession in the offensive zone anyway. But just a little pattern. Again, this game and the series is all about finding little patterns, and I think with Luchanko, that's been, I would say, an area of potentially something to think about, experiment with a little bit, because there's so much good here, and there's just been a few sort of careless little moments where he's made life a little bit more difficult than it probably should be. Luckily, on that play, a guy like Lev Katzen gets in there and does his thing. So Luchanko does a really good job here, right? So you've got number 14 here. This is the hit. This becomes his man. Back checking, covers the guy. This is exactly what you want, right? You know, he's going to stick to him a lot better than he was earlier in the game, covers him all the way to the net, and that's kind of what you want. All right, so now it's 6-on-5. I imagine it's going to be this way for the rest of the game. Really tremendous overall performance. The first period especially was just completely lights out. He did so many things, I think, that are projectable to any level of hockey. Just the smarts, the passing ability, the selflessness in his game, the offensive zone awareness, defensive coverages. This is why when I look at him and I look at the Philadelphia Flyers and I look at John Tortorella, I see why a guy like John Tortorella would be confident enough to say, hey, you did really well in camp. You're a hardworking guy. Let's put you in the NHL for a few games, give you a reward for that because you deserve it, or something. Something along those lines is probably what happened. And I fully believe it with a guy like Luchanko, and I hope you see the same thing. Well, that wasn't an amazing turnover there, and that cost them the game. But in general, this game, again, it's the same situation, right? A careless little thing. He's done it before in the game where it's take a second, spin, take a pass, look here, right? He's trying something, this one-touch little thing, and it just bounces right off his stick and is causing a turnover. Obviously, stuff like that sometimes will just happen in a hockey game. It's too bad. But for the style of player that Luchanko is, to be successful in the NHL, we're going to need to see simplicity and effectiveness and, not that. And a few times in this game, he was beaten on back checks, trying to just not really see other plays around him at key moments, especially at the defensive blue line. And that is not where you want to be turning pucks over and making life easy for your opponents. Obviously not something to panic about. I think in general, he brings so much to the game that I love to see out of players. He's got some skill. He thinks on the fly really, really well. He moves the puck really effectively. He is very smart in the offensive zone with where he's moving and how he creates gaps and how he makes opportunity for himself. I would not be surprised if I were tracking data from this game that he ended with 5 or 6 attempted slot passes, got a couple of good scoring chances on his own, and in my world at 5-on-5, that's really darn good. I don't know. A great game from Luchanko. I really liked him last season, early in the year when I started hearing his name as a really high-end guy. I didn't quite see it. I kind of didn't really understand what people were talking about, but he's one of these guys where you might look at the highlights and you don't really see why he would be drafted as high as he was in the draft, but then you watch him and kind of see the style of play that he has, and you see so much there that you really, really value or should really value. So for me, some people were a little bit surprised to see him drafted where he was. And I honestly was not that surprised. I'd say if I'm Philadelphia, the only name I'm surprised that maybe they didn't take instead was maybe a Zeev Buium. And I think in this series, I have liked what I saw out of Zeev Buium more than Luchanko, but not much more. And the other thing to keep in mind too is that Luchanko is very close to being eligible for this season's draft. And in this year's draft, I mean, where would he be in my ranking? Still pretty darn high. I had Luchanko in my late teens, early 20s, I believe, that last season. He might have ended up higher. So for him, relative to a guy like Zeev Buium, who we've analyzed in this series before, he's almost a year younger, and that's another thing you have to keep in mind. So for a guy who plays like this, has all the potential that he showcases in this game, the small areas, I would say, that need to be worked on and experimented with and talked through a little bit, through thick and thin, overall, a really good performance from Luchanko, and he remains one of my most favorite players to watch from last season. For me, I think I'm putting him on the power ranking at number 4. He I don't think brought as much flash and offensive potential and razzle-dazzle to the game as guys like Buyam, Demidov, and Perek. But in terms of driving the game, pushing the game in the right direction, and generating things for his line mates, and stitching the ice together from the defensive zone to the offensive zone, and just doing all those really important things really, really well, I think he's right there with guys like Hellenius, Oliver Moore. I see a lot of similarities in his game to what I remember watching of Easton Cowan in this series, but I think he does it at a higher pace of play with a little bit more applicable simplicity, so to speak. And I think there's a lot to really write home about with Luchanko in this one. And so for me, he is one of the best. This is one of the best games I've seen in this series to this point. Not necessarily on that top 3 podium. I don't think he knocks off Buyam, Demidov, or Perek right now. I don't know if he's like an elite NHL player at any point in his career, but a good one. I could definitely see that middle 6, really important player that if you put some guys who can score with him, some really good finishers on a line with him, that Tyson Forster type if you're Philadelphia, Alexis Gendron, my boy, maybe a guy like that in the future on their 3rd line, maybe 2nd line, probably not, but you get what I'm saying. 2 really good scorers and a guy like Luchanko who can work off of them and get the puck to them and all that stuff. I think he could be really, really good. At the end of the day, he'll elevate who he's playing with, and those are the types of players in the draft that I love to see. They make everyone else better. They make life easier for their line mates, and even if there's some tweaks that need to be made, there's a lot to like. So with that, we're going to call it a day. Thank you very much for joining me. This was a ton of fun. If you liked it, definitely like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you really want to help us out, you can go to scouching.ca and get a subscription where you can get access to our Discord server as well as plenty of other cool data tables and visualization tools with exclusive track data from games like this that you won't find anywhere else. It's all really good, so check it out at scouching.ca, and we are going to move on to the next one, and we'll see you then.